All right, we're back for another live edition of Two Guys Talking Sports. Week 4 of college football is in the books. It's hard to believe it's on. We're through 4 weeks, Stephen. Gamecocks and Tigers both win big yesterday. Gamecocks have a good, I guess, less stressful win heading into the bye week. Clemson, still a little bit of an enigma to me. I thought they'd figured out something after the App State game, but turns out App State's not very good. They play a not so good NC State team yesterday without their starting quarterback, but still offense continued to click. So we'll get into those two games here shortly. Stephen, what'd you think about college football? I know you didn't get to watch a lot yesterday, but
I watched one game.
Cowgirl shirt on.
I watched one game yesterday, and I watched like 5 minutes of the Clemson game, and it was already like 28-0. So I was like, well, this is over. And then watched the Gamecocks. That was it. Put up Halloween decorations yesterday. Went to the pumpkin patch. Went and got mums, stuff like that.
Yeah, I rode by your house yesterday. Hold on, my stand's about to break. Give me just a second. Didn't want the laptop to fall down. But yeah, I rode by your house yesterday and I saw all the pumpkins on the lights in your front yard. So it seemed like a busy day for you yesterday.
Yep. A lot of decorating, not much football.
Yeah. Have the Cowboys started playing yet?
4:30.
4:30. There's not even a game on CBS right now. Did you see that?
They only get certain time slots each week, I think, for what kind of games they want to play is something like that.
It's so weird, man. It's so weird. But hey, like I said, another week in the book. Had some big national games yesterday. We'll kind of discuss that just a little bit. We'll start with the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. Tennessee goes into Norman. I think had a dominating win. Honestly, I think Tennessee could have beat Oklahoma way worse than what the score shows. I don't know if it's just something Josh Heupel didn't try to do, not positive. But that score just being a 10-point difference is not telling to me on how the game went. Oklahoma's offense just poor, starting quarterback, several turnovers. I think they did bench them and then brought in, I believe, a true freshman. So kind of, looking ahead for the Gamecocks, be curious to see what happens with the Oklahoma Sooners offense. Defense is always going to be stout. Clemson fans are very familiar with their head coach and Brent Venables. So it was I guess a good welcome to the SEC moment for Oklahoma. We'll stick with the SEC, Vanderbilt, Missouri. Vanderbilt's another team that I can't get a good read on either. The fact that Missouri's kind of struggled the past 2 weeks against Boston College and then Vanderbilt this week, the fact that they had to beat Vanderbilt at home in double overtime, I don't know if that says more about Vanderbilt or Missouri. So, it's with Missouri having the hype they had coming into this season, it's kind of shocking to see them go to double overtime against Missouri.
They're not a top 10 team. Definitely not the number 7 team in the nation, struggling against BC and then struggling against Vandy. They haven't really shown much this year to say this is a top 10 team.
Yeah, I agree. And head to the Big Ten, USC having their first Big Ten matchup against, and it was at Michigan, which I thought was a really good game. The fact that Michigan won this game with 32 passing yards, I think it's just peak Big Ten. It's just like two complete polar opposite programs where USC likes to throw the ball and Michigan really doesn't. I don't know if it's just lack of confidence in their quarterback, but this was like traditional Big Ten football. I think I saw a stat where Michigan and Iowa won their games yesterday, and both combined had less than 100 yards passing. So
Yeah.
it's and then speaking of scoring, North Carolina James Madison. I didn't realize they played a basketball game yesterday.
Yeah. That was a blowout.
James Madison scored 70, and there's a lot of rumors floating around last night. I don't know if it's changed yet today, but there's big rumors that Mac Brown is going like the Steve Spurrier route and is thinking about resigning. There were rumors floating around that he had. Then he had to come out, or his agent came out and said, no, he's not resigning. He's going to show up tomorrow, today, Sunday, ready to go. So I don't know. That's never rumors you want to hear. Not even halfway through your season that your coach has handed in his resignation and that there's potential Freddie Kitchens, Gamecock fans are familiar with him, was going to take over the program. So it's there's a lot going on in the college football world. Texas A&M, they just don't impress me that much, and that's a future Gamecock opponent at home. So there was a lot to get into yesterday from a national standpoint, but we're here to talk Carolina and Clemson. We're going to start with the later game last night. That is South Carolina versus Akron. And Stephen, I would be lying if I said I would not concerned we were going to lose, but I'm always concerned with how we are going to look in these games because I feel like the Gamecocks tend to play to their opponent where, if we play a top team, we usually play up. And if we play a lower tier team, we usually play lower tier. What'd you think about the game before we kind of dive into it?
Overall, it was, exactly what you wanted to see week one in terms of just being able to dominate an opponent from pretty much start to finish. There was some questionable things, but you'll always have that. Why did the play calling kind of change after half? Different things like that. But overall, it was exactly what you would hope to see in a game like that.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to give all credit, or a lot of credit to Robbie Ashford. He kind of, I wouldn't say got ridiculed after coming into the second half last week, but there was a lot of doubt about him where they were saying, "Oh God, well maybe we should get Luke Doty, QB reps this week." And I think we could have made these adjustments in the second half last week. I don't know. But outside a couple series, I really think, and our O-line continued to struggle. I really think we did a great job utilizing his strengths last night. Like, clearly he can pass the ball, but his forte is his legs and his ability to create and roll out of the pocket and everything. So let's give a lot of credit to Robbie Ashford. And I think it shows we do have a more than capable backup to Lenore's if his injury is more severe or more lingering than just missing yesterday.
Yeah, he definitely looked better and was able to do more of what we wanted to see in terms of throwing. Again, that's a lot of his passes were the quick out routes, quick passes. He did have the one deep ball. They did throw a few down the field, but other than that, they played to his strengths, which is RPOs, running, basically run first.
Yeah.
But the passes that they did throw, he looked good. He looked, if I think if we would have had that Robbie Ashford and that game plan against LSU, maybe we end up winning that game. I still think we should have won that game, but I think that we would have had a better chance of completing that game victorious if we had that style of play from Robbie Ashford.
And I'm curious as to why they didn't. I don't, I don't think that's something we'll ever know. And I guess it's hard to kind of switch up your entire game plan at the drop of a hat. I mean, I could be completely wrong, but I'm definitely feel better about the season. So, and it was against Akron, but still, like, anytime you get your backup in there and he does, like, he performs the way he did, that kind of eases my conscience a little bit about the direction the season's heading if Lenore's is not healthy coming out of the bye week. So I thought the defense played good as well. This was a matchup. Now, it's not going to – sacks aren't going to jump out at you. I think we only had two, maybe, or 1.5, two, 2.5 sacks, only one forced turnover. But still, this was, outside a couple of plays, I think in the third quarter or towards the end of the second half when they scored the touchdown. I know Shane wasn't particularly happy about that. I thought they played overall good game. Special teams, I think it's safe to say we've got the old Kai Kroger back, averaged over 50 yards punt, and ran in for a 2-point conversion. And Herrera was, I believe, 6 of 6 on his extra points. So let's get right into it. The offense, over 500. We had 549 yards of total offense, 276 yards passing, and 273 yards rushing. I think Dow Loggins called a great game. It's not going to be 100% perfect. But one thing I do want to mention to you, because I think you're one of the ones on the train of with Nicholas Harbor running a jet sweep. Can we all agree he's not particularly ready, or he's not? You can tell. Like, I think he's got a lot of potential. Like he made some great passes, and I'm glad we got him involved in the game plan and getting him out there, getting more comfortable, because I think it's going to come with reps, because he needs it, because he doesn't participate in spring ball. But you can clearly see he's not like up to football speed, if that's the correct way.
He's still trying to do things that he's never done before, and you can tell. And like we mentioned, at least let's see it. And that was a good game to let's see it.
Yeah.
If you're going to try and do it, and that's one way for the coaching staff to say, look, we want to be able to do these things, but he's just not ready for them. So here you go, watch and see. And then now it's clear that he's just not. He's more of a straight line runner, and that's what he's track. That's what he's used to doing. He's not used to having to make the quick agility cuts and stuff like that. So
yeah.
But at least now we've seen it. But he was a little bit more involved each week. I think he is getting a little bit more involved in the offense, which is good to see.
Yeah, and I think we did a great job of getting a lot of different people involved yesterday. With Rocket Sanders going out, it felt like was it the first quarter? Like probably the first couple drives, and I think we had 8 different rushers, like players get rushing attempts last night. Just about the same with passing. So I think showing the depth we have at that position does help. If kind of like the run or the quarterback position, if Rocket is not ready to go coming out of the bye week against Ole Miss, I do think we have more than capable running backs to take his spot, or kind of shoulder the load while he's out. So the penalties were still a concern for me. 7 penalties for 70 yards. That just, I don't know. It just, I guess, like I think I've said this on different episodes where they're penalties that hurt you. Like, every penalty hurts you, but if it's like, a DB making a play to prevent a touchdown, that's different compared to, we had a holding call on the left guard and that negated a 20-30 yard pass to Mazio.
Yeah.
And so that's something they have to get cleaned up. I haven't really seen much progress from the offensive line. The stuff that was the issues against Old Dominion were the same issues against Akron last night, and allowing 3 sacks. And, sometimes it can just be a coverage sack where the quarterback needs to get rid of the ball. I don't know. But I saw a play where their D tackle just blew right past our center. And I'm sorry, that shouldn't be happening. Not against Akron. If it's, when we start getting into SEC play deeper, we're going to go up against a lot better opponents. And that's stuff that have to get ironed out. And, I was reading, a kind of a game recap this morning where I really don't think anybody should have a guaranteed spot on the offensive line. That's just my opinion. I thought Josiah played okay, and I know the offensive line it's more the continuity thing, but I do think they should be playing a lot better than what they are right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's a lot of young guys, and it's a lot of guys that have never played together, and that's offensive line is like a cohesion thing where you just got to have those reps with each other. And then it doesn't help, too, that you got a young quarterback, and he's trying to figure things out, and then you have to switch quarterbacks for a game, and they've had just a lot of inconsistency in terms of how you would want to go about, gelling that offensive line. But I think it'll come eventually.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, we don't really get a chance to have
no,
you know,
we don't
these
get many
games and
games like we did
opportunities. Right,
yesterday.
exactly. You got to go
Yeah,
right into the hard ones.
I mean, we come out in the bye week against Ole Miss, then I'm pretty positive we go to Alabama and then to Oklahoma, and then another bye week, and then we have a good home stretch.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's something that has to get figured out because again, like we just said, the schedule doesn't get easier for us, so it's
Yeah,
got
I
to be
think
something they grow up. They got to grow up quickly.
Yeah, one good thing though is it looks like some of these opponents, when you came into the season and you were saying, all right, these are going to be very tough games, like the
Mhm.
Texas A&M, like the Oklahomas,
Yeah,
some of those, even the LSU, you almost counted those as automatic losses because you thought that they were going to be so dominating. But watching them play, it's like, okay, watching us play and then watching them play, like we can probably play with these guys and should have beat LSU. The way that Oklahoma's looking, you probably have a good chance if you continue to improve each week. And then again with Texas A&M and even Missouri, they're not looking as dominant as people thought they were going to be as well.
yeah.
So
Mm-hmm.
we just got to gel quick because you are going to have an opportunity to win those games, I think.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And the injuries. The one thing I will say about Beamer, he's very coy in the way he kind of goes about describing these injuries and how the players are reacting. He said Lenore said he was ready to go this weekend, but he didn't look that great on Friday, so they decided not to play him. So who knows with Rocket? From what I've read, the people don't think it's as serious as other people think. Because anytime I think you see a walking boot, you just assume the worst. And I think the walking boots that
No, what you don't want to see is crutches.
yeah,
A walking boot is, okay, it's not.
it's just precautionary.
Right, exactly. The same way that Lenore's walked into the stadium in the Gamecock walk in regular tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And then he put the walking boot on the sideline.
Yeah.
It's just like hey, let's just be safe kind of deal. Same thing with Rocket. You want to just keep that swelling down.
Yeah.
If you would have saw him out on crutches or on one of the little rolling cart things, all right, now we got to start thinking it's serious. But you probably won't know anything for 2 weeks. They're not going to say anything about they're not going to tell you anything legit about that injury.
And one thing some people may not know is since this wasn't an SEC game this past week, they didn't have to release an official injury report like they had to do for the LSU game. But again, getting back into the offense, I thought Robbie Ashford was very good. He was 15 of 21, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had 16 rushes for 133 yards and a touchdown. I think you got to see the real Robbie Ashford and how he can move and how fast he is, because clearly his legs are his strongest asset. And he did have a nice pass to Mazio for that touchdown. But my thing is keeping the passes simple and not. I feel like we did get away from that after he did make a couple passes down the field. I think he does better passing it down the field where he's able to, kind of move out of the pocket and kind of. I'm trying to think of the right word to use. Crap. I can't think of the word, but instead of it being like a design long pass, I think him being able to create with his legs and have those DBs bite, it leaves players open. I think is a great thing. And honestly, a lot of the receivers showed up outside the drop pass by number 15. I think his last name is Campbell. His first name, I don't know. I thought the receivers played really well last night.
Yeah. The offense definitely being able to see more guys get involved, and the guys that were involved, it looks like we got a lot more depth than we normally have at a lot of positions, especially running back and wide receiver. It looks like, there's a lot of depth there. And also tight end. We played 3 or 4 different tight ends.
You had Simon, Hunt, Cox. I still think we need to get Joshua Simon involved more.
Right.
I don't get it. But, we're not the ones calling the plays and seeing what they see out on the field. But he's just too athletic of a player. I think I even heard Michael Smith may have gone down with an injury. So hopefully that's nothing crazy. And he's just a freshman, but he's just super athletic. I think we have the depth, but it's just the inexperience we have within the running back position and the receiver position is what concerns me. But again, a lot of our big games this year compared to last year are at home. So you don't have that pressure of these big time environments where, just imagine if we played at LSU last week. That's a
Yeah.
completely different standpoint playing at home. And same thing for Ole Miss. Like we have them at home. So that's definitely goes towards us and like goes in our favor compared to going to Ole Miss, which I don't think that's a tough place to play anyways. But again, it was also good to see Davis Bevel get in. I guess anytime you get the backups in, I think Davis I think he's kind of a journeyman.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see the camaraderie the team has with one another when the backups get in, and even just watching the press conference with Kyle Kennard and Demetrius Knight, like that's, and I know we talk about the transfer portal a lot, but that's how you want to utilize the transfer portal, where like these guys are bought in, they are big time leaders. And I think they set the tone for the locker room, especially on the defensive side of the ball, and Debo Williams. So I was very happy with what I saw yesterday. Outside that touchdown drive and in the second quarter, I thought it was just a great game last night for the Gamecocks.
I agree.
So again, we already talked about the special teams defense allowed 154 yards total offense. Did create a turnover. You're not always going to have a ton of turnovers. Like it is what it is. But I still thought, at the end of the day, a win's a win. Do you have anything else you want to touch on for the Carolina game?
No, I just think it's what you, and I think, I can't remember if it was Mike Davis or who it was that tweeted it, but they were like, this is finally like the Gamecocks that you want to see against opponents like this. You saw fight against LSU. You saw them beat Kentucky. You saw them, fight, and they should have won that game against LSU. And now you see them go out and finally take care of an opponent like this, which is what you expect. But like we both thought going in, like we could lose this game. Like there's a chance, it's just what we're used to is that it's going to be a dogfight. We're going to, end up winning by, 10 points, but it's going to be just stress the entire. Yeah. But, that was finally a game where you could just sit back after a few drives and say, okay, like we're good here. We're finally doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah. I honestly thought heading into halftime, I was like, this is going to be a long night. I was like, I'm not happy. And Beamer wasn't happy. And I'm glad we're seeing this fire from him instead of this happy-go-lucky guy all the time. Just because it gets old after a while. Like when stuff's going right, obviously you can. But, watching the way they gave up that touchdown last night, I know that perturbed him a lot. And then kind of how the play call, the offensive play calling went away from what was so successful to like not doing it anymore. And so, like I said, once the third quarter got going, it seemed they reverted back to the way they started the game. So again, another impressive win for the Gamecocks, 50-7 over Akron. Head into the bye week, so let's win the bye week. Let's get our guys healthy. I do feel, like I said at the beginning of the show, I do feel better about our quarterback situation. Seeing Robbie Ashford play last night. Running back is just going to have to be by committee if Rocket's not able to go. Yeah. But the running back position is predicated on our offensive line blocking. We can't run inside the tackles, so that's got to be something they clean up over the bye week. But again, another big win. We'll start back. I believe it's October the 5th, and we will be at home against the Ole Miss Rebels. Let's hope and pray it's a night game because there's nothing like Williams-Brice at night in SEC.
I think it's
play.
1:00.
Oh, God. Has that been announced?
They've pretty much announced times for the next 3 or 4 games. I think that one was a flex game where it could be 1:00 or maybe 3:30. It's either 3:30 or 4:30, or it could be 6 to 8. So that is a flex game where they haven't announced Ole Miss yet. I do know Alabama is set for 12:00.
Yeah. Alabama's 12:00. So the only games that I'm aware of that we have time scheduled already announced for is Alabama at 12 and Wofford at 4. So I hope it's a night game. I really do. So because that's going to be a big time matchup. So let's get into. So we can keep our Tiger fans happy. The Clemson NC State game, like I said at the beginning of the show, I didn't really know what to think about Clemson. They had the big time win against App State, which I didn't personally expect to happen. But watching App State lose the way they did this past week, I was like, well, and I even saw it on Twitter where I think some Clemson fans got a little bit more worried about it, where they you didn't really know what to expect from Clemson, but coming in against NC State, banged up where they didn't have the quarterback, Clemson dominated this game, and them building this momentum and getting stuff going on offense. And you could say what you want about their schedule, but them continuing to build confidence in that offense, I think it's going to be scary.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of, they're definitely looking better. They're definitely progressing. But again, it's hard to say because App State, they're not very good. Historically, yeah, they'll normally give teams like that a hard time, but this year I don't think so. And then NC State, they just got blown out by Tennessee. I mean, they looked good for a half against Tennessee, but then, that game got away from them. And then they come into this game and they don't even have their starting quarterback. And so they're starting a true freshman. He's making his first ever, start, and it's at Clemson in Death Valley.
Yeah.
So, they are progressing. Cade does look better. But I wouldn't go ahead and throw Clemson into the national contention conversation quite yet.
No. And before we continue, I do want to get this answered by Caleb. He's like, you think we get game day against Ole Miss? What do the other games look like that week? I don't think – I think on schedule so far that might be the best game, but I don't think that's how game day operates. I don't think they go to the same place twice in a year.
No, probably not.
And I don't think they should. But again, I think if you're talking in terms of the games that week, it is on paper to be one of the better ones. But I doubt we see them come back to Columbia. Maybe it feels at Ole Miss, maybe. But them already coming to Columbia, I highly doubt they come back.
Right.
But yeah, continuing with the Clemson game, I read a tweet, and I don't know how much validity this has to it, but I heard Garrett Riley kind of has full control of the offense. And again, that could be false. He may have always had it. And it just took that Georgia loss to wake them up. I'm not positive. But yeah, they're kind of clicking on all cylinders right now. And
I don't know how you hire the hottest offensive coordinator in the nation and pay him $1.3 million a year and then not give him full control of the offense till a season and a half in. Like, he's got to have full control day one. If that's true, then I just what is going on? Like,
I think it could be a little bit of maybe not arrogance, but it's like, okay, I'm a 2-time national championship winner. Like, clearly what I've done is working. So I won't, just like Beamer has a style and philosophy he wants to run. He may not be calling the plays, but he has his philosophy on how he wants his offense to run. And when Clemson lost Jeff Scott and Tony Elliott, I think Jeff Scott more so than Tony Elliott, they kind of got away from what they had. It could have been just with the quarterback they had at the time, or quarterbacks they had at the time. But it seems they have found something that's working. And again, I know we can harp on their schedule. They can't change the schedule, but it scares me because they have such a weaker schedule, and it just allows them to build momentum and kind of cakewalk into the ACC championship to whoever they'll play. Probably Miami, because Miami does look good. But it scares me as a Gamecock fan when we play them at Clemson, because the more they click, the more scarier they get.
Yeah. Again, it's hard to tell because the competition the past two games isn't, stout or elite. But they definitely do look a lot better offensively.
Yeah, and defense is always going to be there, but Clemson has it's still weird seeing Stanford playing the ACC.
Yeah,
but they've got Stanford, then they're at Florida State, at Wake Forest, at Virginia for their next 4 games. So, Wake Forest isn't good at all this year. Florida State finally got their win yesterday against Cal. I still don't think it was pretty offensively, but win's a win, I guess, when you start 0-3. And then they've got a bye week. Then they play at home versus Louisville. Then they're at Virginia Tech, at Pitt, the Citadel in South Carolina. So, I mean, Clemson could honestly run the table, but they always seem to have a game that just kind of traps them, and they may still win it, but it ends up being a lot tougher of a game than what they expect it to be. And kind of, I mean, looking at the schedule, I think the only one that could, there's two before our game is Louisville and Pittsburgh. I mean, Virginia Tech might be a tough game because it's at Virginia Tech, but like I said, for Clemson fans, you have to be happy with your offense the past two games, and kind of going into ACC play, a big time win over NC State. Now they may not be as good as they have been in the past couple of years, but still a 59-35 win. And the points they gave up, I think, was more on the not the starters, but like the second and third string, getting younger guys in and getting them more experience. So, but again, Clemson, they're rolling right now, and I don't foresee it stopping. But we have seen stranger things. So, Stephen, do you have anything else you wanted to say on that one?
No, I think that they just gotta go on the road, see how it travels. That's what you always want to see. I mean, sometimes it's a lot easier to click when you're at home. Take it on the road. But yeah, I think that Louisville game, even though it's a few weeks away, that's probably going to be like the telltale of, if they go out there and rout Louisville like they did NC State, then you can see that they're back. But until then, it's not like they play stout competition. For us to be able to say like, okay, Clemson's back, put them in the national. I still think that they're going to win. Be there at the ACC championship game. Have a chance to get into the playoffs, but. You got to see what they're showing now against teams like Louisville, against Miami, somebody like that, to be able to say, like they're ready to be back in the playoffs again.
Yeah, and Cade Klubnik went 16-24 yesterday for 209 yards, 3 touchdowns, 70 rushing yards and a touchdown, and Phil Maffa 107 yards rushing for 1 touchdown. And honestly, their stats could have been a lot better if they would have played majority of the game. Yeah. So, but again, it seems to be Cade Klubnik's kind of found his groove. Maybe that, I don't know. Again, I guess we'll find out as the season goes along. So, but that does it for the episode today. Something short and sweet. We'll be back next week, I guess. So, we can talk the Clemson game because Carolina won't be playing.
Right.
But we'll have our high school episode dropping at 7 p.m. Tuesday night. Steven, anything else before we get out of here?
Well, let's just hope that the Cowboys can win today.
Who
do the Panthers play?
Yeah, I think 4:30. Let's see.
Cowboys have the Ravens.
Oh, that should be a good game.
Ravens looking for their first win of the season. Cowboys trying to bounce back from that tail cut from last week. Panthers got the Raiders.
Yeah, play in Las Vegas. We'll see how the Panthers look today. New quarterback, Andy Dalton.
Old quarterback.
Yeah,
he was the starter.
Yeah, he's not a young guy. He's not.
Right.
I don't think
I have seen reports that the Panthers are potentially shopping Bryce Young.
I don't think it's them shopping him. I think a lot of teams are interested in him,
like Miami,
because the Panthers are just. I don't even really know where to begin with them. Like I will say I don't follow the NFL like I do college. I guess I would say I am a Panthers fan. If they lose at the end of the day, I don't get as upset like I do if the Gamecocks win. But yeah, I think it's David Tepper. I think he's the worst owner in sports. He's run that franchise into the absolute ground.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no other way to describe it. Like everything he has touched in the city of Charlotte has turned to hot trash.
Yeah,
and I think Dave Canales is a good coach. I don't think he was probably their top choice because nobody wants to go there, and I don't like it. I think Bryce Young is a good quarterback, but he's 5'10", and I don't like how these players have these expectations to come in right away and just be a game changer when that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah.
Like if you get drafted into the right position in the right organization, it might help, like Brock Purdy in San Francisco. CJ Stroud in Houston, excuse me. I think if the Panthers would have drafted CJ Stroud, he wouldn't be doing what he's doing now.
No, it's all about situation. Unfortunately, I think Bryce Young was put in a bad situation where the team is just not very good. The owner sucks, and it just is what it is. But you'll know a little bit more about Bryce Young if Andy Dalton comes out there and the Panthers roll off like 3 or 4 wins. Then you can kind of say, all right, well, Bryce Young he wasn't a fit.
Yeah, and I think it's lack of confidence. I mean, the Panthers have had 3 different head coaches, and he's not even halfway through his second season.
Right.
So, as a quarterback who's especially a rookie quarterback, second-year quarterback now coming in, and he's had 3 different coaches, 3 different types of playing styles, and
Yeah.
that doesn't really exude confidence. And there's not it. I don't know. I think it'll benefit him from not starting. But again, I think the Panthers offense could have been a lot better, but I just think his inability and his lack of confidence is just holding him back a little bit. So I'll be anxious to see how it looks with Andy Dalton, because I think the Panthers have a decent running game. They invested a lot in the offensive line this past offseason. So it's not like they drafted rookie guys like they did. I think they spent the most money in the entire NFL on their offensive line this past offseason. So, I think you get somebody in there that's more veteran and has more presence and not trying to find himself, I think will help a little bit. We'll see. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say.
You'll know more about the Panthers if it's really Bryce Young or not in the next 2 to 3 games.
Yeah, and I mean, he very well could come back. Who knows?
Yeah.
So it's not forever. And some people think David Tepper told Canales to bench Bryce Young.
Yeah, we'll see. But no, that's all I got for today.
It's a dumpster fire of an organization. And I go from the Gamecocks to the Panthers, and I'll put it this way: I would rather know we stink instead of like being a Cowboys fan and they just build you up and then just disappoint you every year like they always do. So.
It's fun on the journey until the car explodes.
And the crazy fact is the Panthers have been to the Super Bowl more recently than the Cowboys.
That's crazy.
Don't let Trent see that. He might get upset.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all on Tuesday, and we'll be back next Sunday around the same time.
All right.